Dave Valle, you spent 13 seasons in the big leagues behind the plate. How pervasive was sign stealing when you were a player?
I think as long as teams are playing and competing and trying to win, they're always going to look for an edge. So if it is getting signs from the guy that's out there on second base and relaying them to the hitter, whether it's the outside part of the plate or the inside part of the plate, players are always going to look at those things. And I think back of some of the better teams that stole signs, and I'm thinking of the Cleveland Indians, Joe Carter and Julio Franco. I'm thinking of Toronto Blue Jays and Robbie Alomar, Paul Molitor, Joe Carter. Those are the guys that when I'm putting signs down, I'm looking to see if they're staring at me. Because if they are staring at me, then I'm getting nervous.
Well, staring at us right now at second base is Eric Byrnes. So, Byrnesy, give us a sense of what a runner at second might be signaling to his teammate in the batter's box.
Oh, Robert, I think first off, you have to understand that when you're on second base, there's a lot going on anyway. The first thing you're going to do is you're going to check your outfielders to see where they are. You're going to obviously check in with your third base coach. You also want to know where the second baseman is. So as you take your first secondary league, here you are. You're doing a lot of things. So I think sometimes what happens is the other team will get paranoid. The other catcher will get paranoid. The other pitcher will get paranoid. But does it happen? Of course it does. Orlando Hudson was the best I'd seen.
Okay.
And his ability to be able to trust himself to know, hey, it's outs +1, it's whatever it is that he'd get from the catcher. Then at that point, what he would do is he would take a short secondary and he'd get about right here. And everyone thinks, and this is what you saw with Machado doing, this right here, or maybe this right here, just giving location. Well, what O-Dog would do is he'd keep it very subtle, where he'd get out to this point and he'd say, if he steps with his right foot first, after his original secondary, that's going to be a fastball. Left foot, off speed. So the ones that are actually really stealing the signs, they're not obvious. They're not doing this. They're not doing this. They're not doing this. Typically not. Now, I guess you could try anything, and I'm not saying that Machado was or wasn't doing it, but I think a lot more times than not, it's very subtle.
All right, why don't you come join me at the mound? Dave's going to stay behind the plate, and you at home are going to be able to get a sense of what the catcher, the battery, what they're doing to try to combat the idea of stealing signs.
And, Rob, one of the interesting things, as we saw all throughout the playoffs, was catchers giving multiple signs when nobody was on base. So that tells you how kind of not paranoid, but aware of that other teams are trying to get their signs. But I'm going to go through a series of signs, and I want you guys to try to follow along. So,
and people at home will be able to see what you're offering. We can't see, but they'll know what the pitch is. And
okay, so here's the secret of the theme. If we're ahead in the count, it's going to be the first sign.
Okay.
If the pitcher's behind in the count, it's going to be the second sign. And if it's even in the count, it will be the third sign.
Okay.
Okay, so it's 0-0.
I'm already confused.
It's 0-0 right now, right?
Yeah. Holy moly.
What do we got?
Change up.
Change up. Boom. And it's for a strike. Pow. So now it's 0-1.
Okay.
So now you're ahead in the count.
We're ahead in the count. Curveball.
Bingo. And
there we go.
And it's a ball.
Boom.
Now it's 1-1 count.
All right.
Okay. So we're back to.
We're even.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, shoot. I lost it.
Fastball.
Fastball, bam. There you go. Now, to add another wrinkle to this, if you still think that guy's staring at me, and you can typically tell if somebody's trying to look in to get your signs, the pitcher could have the prerogative of doing, okay, you called the fastball, but I really want to throw the changeup. I'm going to add 2.
Okay.
I'm going to -1. And it can get you back to that same pitch, the changeup. So for that situation, the pitcher's back is to the hitter.
Yes.
And it's harder for that runner to try to figure out what that sign was because he can't tell how many times he's been waving to add or to minus. Chris Bosio, a guy who I caught a no-hitter with, Boz never liked to go through a second series of signs, so he just said, hey, Val, if you call a fastball, I'm going to either add or subtract, and we'll get to that number that I want.
What would you tell a hitter if you felt that they were relaying signs?
Well, the one thing is if I started to sense it or if my pitching coach started to sense it, I would just tell the hitter, if there was a guy on second base, hey, man, your boy might get somebody hurt out there. Just put that in their brain, so all of a sudden they're going, okay, they know that we're stealing, and I may not trust this next fastball down in the way that he's relaying because it might be up and in.
Boy, there must be a huge mental fatigue at the end of a start for a pitcher and a catcher. I mean, after all that, a lot of brain power required.